Right, so I'm here by myself, so you're not going to see me. But in this process, this is the first start or the first step in the process of distilling spirits. So I have to make a wash, and a wash is similar. If you have a beer process, it would be a wort, but this is called a wash. Before I start making a wash, it's very important, the same as anything with making wine, beer, etc., that cleanliness is important, it's imperative. So I clean all my materials with a sanitizer and a detergent. So all my utensils is the bucket, a paddle, the lid, even my scissors. So they get sanitised, and then once that's done, the next process is I add normal tap water to my bucket, or to my fermenter. So the water takes 25 litres of water, and you want the temperature to be approximately 30 degrees. So therefore, to get the 30 degrees, I use about 11 or 12 litres of hot water and the rest cold water. So you want about 28 to 30 ideally for the, and this is my thermometer that I use, a probe in there. So you want about 28 to 30 degrees for the yeast and the sugars, etc. to go. So I'm not going to go through the process of showing you the water and the sugar dissolving, because it just takes too long and it's boring. So I've already made pre-prepared one. I've got one out of the oven for you. So all my ingredients to make the wash is sugar. So there's 6 kilograms of sugar. So I add that to my 25 kilograms of water, and that makes up to 32 kilograms. 32 litres, sorry. And then I stir that. The sugar has to be dissolved before you add anything else. So the stirring process takes about, I'd say about 10 minutes, and that's why it's boring. I don't know how to do a pause on the camera, so that was another reason I made one up prior. And once I'm happy that the sugar's dissolved and the temperature is where it should be, I then add yeast. And the yeast that I use, and I've been using this one constantly, is still classic 6 turbo yeast. It's also got added nutrients, vitamins and some minerals in there, because sugar alone won't work. You need also nutrients to eat away at the sugars and the yeast. So I add the yeast into there, give it a wee stir, and then the next step is I use a turbo carbon. And what this does is a black, that's why the wash is black at the moment. And what this does, it takes away the impurities that you don't want in there, so that after a while there is tastes, chemicals, etc. that you don't want. And this helps take that away. Because during this fermentation process, there is about 50 different chemicals that you don't want. Now, if you're making wine, that's fine, because that adds sort of flavours and etc. and character to the wine, but you don't want them in your spirit. So you've got to make sure through the process, after this process, that all the unwanted chemicals, there's all sorts of alcohols, ethers, there's aminos, aldehydes, organic acids that you just don't want in there. So this helps, the carbon helps take that away, and then it leaves it to do its thing. So with the yeast and the sugars, will start fermenting within about 8-9 hours. It's a fast acting yeast. So with this here, I don't seal the lid, because it goes quite wild actually. I let that leave the lid loose for about 24 hours, then I seal it, and then that's it. I'll leave it for until the fermentation process is finished, and I take a hydrometer reading, and that's in about 5, 6, 7, 8 days, depends how hot and cold it is. I normally do this in the garage, but I've done it out here because it's nice and bright, and the camera, it's not saying the garage is dark, but I'm cramped for space in there. So I've done this outside. Once I've finished this, I'll take this into the garage and I'll put it on the heat pad, and therefore I'll monitor the heat to make sure it's about 30 degrees constantly. So I'll switch the heat pad on and off, it's not regulated, and I'll make sure it stays about 30 degrees. And then after about 6, 7 days, there's another process, and I'll show you the process for that. But that's basically it. It's a boring bit for the 10 minutes that you didn't see, but hopefully it gives you a wee bit of insight on the start of the distillation process. Cheers.